the full package for Paul Sewald. He goes to the Diamondbacks. The Mariners receive now Major League outfielder Dominic Canzone, utility man Josh Rojas, and minor league infielder Ryan Bliss. For a reliever with a year and a half of control left, I don't think you can complain about this package too much. Canzone just got done destroying AAA. But when I say destroying AAA, he was quite legitimately the best hitter in AAA this season. Rojas is coming off a 3-win season last year in 2022, despite struggling this year at the plate. And Bliss, when I talk about Canzone being the best hitter in AAA, Bliss was the best hitter across all of AA. Second best hitter in AA behind Kobe Mayo of the Baltimore Orioles, who's a top 100 prospect. So it's kind of intriguing that Jerry grabbed the best hitter at each the AAA and AA level this year as those high minor bats that he was kind of looking for and what he told us he was looking for going into this deadline.
Does Dominic Canzone remind you anything of Mitch Haniger? And I'm not even talking about the play style because obviously he's a left-handed bat, Mitch is a righty, but just the sense of he is not some blue chip prospect. He is in the Diamondbacks top 30. He was ranked the Diamondbacks number 19 prospect at the time of this trade. But 25 years old, just tore up the minor leagues, starting to pick up some steam and momentum, and feels like could be the type of player that really turns into something despite being a little bit older.
Their OPSs were nearly identical each of their 25-year-old AAA seasons in Reno. Like, nearly identical.
I think it speaks volumes. And look, we know some people in the Mariners organization, and we've talked to some people the last couple days, and through the grapevine, we've heard some stuff about, from what scouts have said about Dominic Canzone, the take on this is the Mariners have been interested in him for a while. I think they've liked his bat for a long time. And their mindset was this was the last chance they had to go get Dominic Canzone before he absolutely exploded and basically would take a king's ransom to trade for down the road. They thought this was their last chance to get him before he absolutely bursts onto the scene. So I don't think this is an Abe Toro trade for the Mariners. I think they see this as a guy that could be an impact bat. Give him a little time. He's had 15 big league games. But I think this is a guy they really believe in and part of their future core.
I'm shocked that neither of us decided that it was an immediate red flag that he went to a Big Ten school.
Yeah, we had a take about that for a while, didn't we? That we always said don't draft Big Ten players in the MLB draft because who in the world are they playing against?
Yeah, pretty much. The results speak for themselves, but I think Canzone's carved out a bit of a role for himself. Before we go back to analyzing Canzone, I thought it was so funny that, so Lau and I were in the Cape League in 2018, obviously. And I was like, oh, well, I do remember Dom Canzone. I do remember the team I called games for, playing against him multiple times. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go back and find the games he played in. I was kind of curious. I remember the final game of my first summer there. Canzone had 2 hits in my team, who was the best team in the league all season, against Canzone's Brewster Whitecaps, who were among the worst teams in the league that year. And then the Brewster and Canzone's team upset the team I called games for, which is very intriguing. Canzone had a couple hits in that game. And so that was a fond memory. But in looking back at that, I went to the wrong year of Brewster and Whitey Red Sox games. And I looked down at it. I'm like, oh shit, that's Ryan Bliss leading off for Brewster. I had no idea. I totally forgot that he played for Brewster as well. So that really brought back some memories.
We're really right in that window where all those guys we saw in 2018 and 2019 are about at the time where they're going to be getting up to the big leagues. So it's not shocking that we recognize a lot of names that are getting up now because we saw a bunch of these guys. The Cape League features, for those who don't know, the best of the best college players throughout the country that go to Cape Cod to play baseball throughout the summer. So we saw a ton of these guys throughout those 2 summers. So yeah, we saw Dom Canzone, we saw Ryan Bliss, we saw a bunch of other guys.
I mean, shit, Tommy Henry on Friday. right at Chase Field.
Yeah, I mean, again, we saw Kirby there. We saw Spencer Torkelson there. I mean, we could rattle off names forever. But it is funny that these guys are going to be playing in Seattle now. Again, I think Canzone is a guy that could really make really do some damage down the road. Look at what he did. I mean, you talk about even his AAA time. Look at last year in AA. He played 15 games there last year. 223 WRC plus before he was promoted to AAA. I mean, and then you look at 2021 when he was in Double A again, 171 WRC plus. I mean, this guy had 32 homers in the minors over the last 2 years. Doesn't strike out a lot. Feels like a guy that could really do some damage.
I know PCL pitching really isn't great, but it was almost dead even walks and strikeouts. What's really fascinating about his PCL stats, it's such a hitter's league, but we're talking about a guy in a hitter's league who led the entire league in average, slugging, WRC plus, OPS, weighted on base average, and this is all of these stats while having the fourth lowest strikeout rate in the league. That's absurd.
149 was the number this year. 149 WRC plus he put up in AAA this year. So that's 49% above league average. We even saw it a little bit during this Diamondbacks Mariners series. Remember those 2 balls he scorched, but they went for nothing? I mean, he was hitting the ball hard in that series. Hell, he had the game-winning hit in Game 2. He had that little C&I single up the middle against Munoz, which, by the way, I'd like to protest that now that he's on the Mariners, they should actually get that game back. I'm just going to throw that out there. The Mariners should
I'm down.
Yeah.
That it might negate it though that Paul Sewald pitched in couple of those games too.
No, that's true. Okay, so forget I said that.
Yeah.
It's hard not to be excited about. It's hard not to be excited about what Canzone could do. Again, the club control, I think, is what the kicker in this deal was. The fact that Josh Rojas is not a free agent until after 2026, so you get 3.5 years with him. If he goes back to being the player that he was last year, that is a guy that will be valuable for the Mariners. If he goes back to being a 2 to 3 win player, that is a guy that's going to contribute. If he's not, it doesn't really matter if you let him go or send him down. And Canzone's clock has not even started. So you're talking about 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. You're talking about 6.5 years of Dom Canzone. So for a guy that had a 1.5 years left in Paul Sewald, again, it is really crushing to see him go. I was really devastated to see that he was getting traded away yesterday. But when you look at the full perspective of it, it makes sense. It makes sense that you are buying bats that could help this team in an area where they have struggled. They do not have enough offense. They do not have enough left-handed production. I get it.
I'll save my I would say my comments on Sewald in the process of trading him. Let's finish out this return first. So okay. Josh Rojas had a 3-win season last year. He's 29. He's got decent control of the strike zone. I think his biggest problem is he really just doesn't hit the ball hard enough. He does play quite a few positions. Overall, defensively, he's a pretty clear net negative on the infield for his career, negative 22 defensive runs saved, but he is plus 10 defensive runs saved in the outfield and the corners. And outside of this season, he's walked over 10% of the time in each one of his big league seasons. So there's a bit of a Jerry mold here, an older utility player with 3 years of control after this season. And I'm guessing they assume that he's going to look a little bit more like the player he was last year when he was worth 3 wins, opposed to the season or the player that he is this year when he's not worth 3 wins.
He has a good arm, too, for whatever it's worth. I mean, he's in the 60th to 80th percentile in terms of arm strength. It's ranged from year to year. That's a little bit different than Colton Wong's first percentile arm strength, which we've talked about throughout the year. We figured, he doesn't have a good arm. Doesn't matter. He's playing second base. No, that's made a difference on double plays. So even if for the most part he plays outfield, where he is better, if he's in the infield, you at least know you're going to get a guy with an arm. So between his ability to hit right-handed pitching, which he does do, by the way, left-handed bat that hits righties pretty well, at least if you look back at last year, I think this is a net positive, too. When you look at what you got from Colton Wong and A.J. Pollock in the outfield, paired with what Rojas could do at each of those positions, I think it's a win.
Well, it can't be worse than it was.
Right. That's exactly right.
Right. And I would say that's kind of where we're at with Josh Rojas. I kind of feel like even though Rojas is the most established big leaguer, he was a throw-in in this trade. That's what I think. Because if we get to Ryan Bliss, who's the third member in the minor league part of this trade, he just got done putting fire to the Texas League. I mean, this dude, but let's just shed some background. He is 5'6". What does he weigh? 165. 5'6", 165, out of Auburn, teammate of Matt Scheffler, by the way, friend of the pod. And here's some double A numbers from our 5'6", 165-pound friend. Does this sound like someone who's that small? 358, 414, 594, 162 WRC plus, 8% walk rate. He was second across the board in hitting statistics behind Kobe Mayo at AA. That's pretty absurd as a second baseman.
And he doesn't strike out much. I mean, does that sound like Jose Altuve?
It does. Yes, it does. I didn't want to be the one to make such a bold assertion, but yeah, it does. Yes, it does. Can we put them next to each other, please? I need that visual.
Yeah, it might be a little bit better than the Aaron Judge Jose Altuve visual.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little more fair to both parties.
We're not saying Bliss is going to turn into Altuve, but we are saying there's something to like here. When he gets up to the big leagues, I don't know. Maybe it'll be at some point next year. I would assume he spends the rest of the year in Tacoma because he was in AAA at the time of the trade. He's only played a couple handfuls of games down in AAA so far. But again, this team needs help at second base. They have had issues with it since Robbie Cano left the team. It didn't work with Adam Frazier. It didn't work with Colton Wong. They're going to try to figure it out now. You would hope between either Rojas and his ability to play a lot of different spots, between Caballero, between Dylan Moore, and between eventually Ryan Bliss, somebody can stick there. That is your hope. And from what Bliss has done so far in the minors, we don't know if it's going to work for certain or not, but it's hard to not be at least intrigued.
Did you see that home run the dude hit on Sunday?
Oh, it was crushed.
Yeah. 454 feet to dead center field, like dead center, like opposite, like center, left center, I think against Oklahoma City. And it might have been in Oklahoma City. I can't exactly remember, but it's crazy for someone of his stature to have that kind of power. That's pretty crazy. I know the PCL could make me and you both look like good hitters, but that ball was punched. It was absolutely punched. What's really fascinating about Bliss, if you go back to last year, he sucked. Like, he was bad in high A. He was really, really struggling and made, I think he made some adjustments to get a little bit shorter to the ball this year. I was reading some analysis, I think was from Sam Dykstra. I think, don't hold me to that. Yes, it was Sam Dykstra, who was noting kind of some of the adjustments he made in the offseason and came out and turned himself into a quality prospect. So I'm intrigued. I'm excited. I'm going to imagine he'll see the big leagues at some time next season. And if he continues to hit in the PCL, he's off to a bit of a slower start in the PCL as expected. But if he turns around and starts hitting PCL pitching, he's going to see some time at second next year.
Let's be clear. The headline of this trade is Canzone. Like, we just highlighted each of the three guys. You mentioned you don't think Rojas is the guy that headlines the trade. Maybe he's more of a throw-in. The headliner's Canzone. If Dominic Canzone turns into a productive ball player and a good hitter, that's a win for the Mariners because that is the guy they are banking on to make this trade work.
I have one more note here on Ryan Bliss. I want to shout out Joe Doyle. I mean, talk about something aging like fine wine. Joe Doyle had a tweet in 2021, April 30th, 2021, when Bliss was still at Auburn. He tweeted, I believe this is a home run from Bliss, and says, someone is going to draft Ryan Bliss in the second round. He was a second round pick. And have a top 10 second baseman for the next decade. Pin tweet. And now the Mariners get to find out if that's actually true or not.
I didn't see Joe tweet that. Wow, that's wild. How'd you find that?
He did do that. And then there's another one. There's another tweet, which is even funnier deja vu. Ryan Bliss responding to the Mariners, December 10th, 2014, the M social media took a picture of T-Mobile, or then Safeco Field, lit up at night like a Christmas tree. And Bliss responds to it and says, my dream, at Mariners, at MLB, my dream one day. Plane emoji, baseball emoji. So it's speaking. We're speaking wishes into existence.
That tweet I did see. I didn't see Joe's tweet about Bliss from 2 years ago, but that's pretty wild. Listen, if Ryan Bliss wants to be a top 10 second baseman, you're not going to hear a single Mariners fan say a single word otherwise. Like, you are more than welcome to do so, is what we're getting at.